hope, strength, and inspiration.
You are listening to The Brave Files, real stories from people living courageously. You can listen to the show anywhere you enjoy podcasts, and we'd love for you to subscribe, rate, and give a review on Apple Podcasts. It really does make a difference, and we appreciate it. Now here's your host, Heather Vickery.
Hey everybody, this is Heather Vickery. Welcome to the Brave Files. I am really delighted to welcome today's guest, Parijat Deshpande. Did I get that right? Tell me that
You did. It was
perfect. We had to play some phonetic spelling games before we did this. She is really a neat lady. She's the leading high-risk pregnancy wellness expert. She guides women to manage their physical, emotional, and mental stress so that they can have a healthy pregnancy and give their baby a strong start to life. As somebody who's done this 4 times, I really value that type of business exists. She's also the host of Delivering Miracles, which is a podcast that discusses the real, raw side of fertility, pregnancy, prematurity, and the postpartum period, which is no joke, friends. Any of you listening with kids, this stuff is serious business. And the author of Pregnancy Brain, I love that title, A Mind-Body Approach to Stress Management During a High-Risk Pregnancy. Parijat, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, I have really been looking forward to this. I think that your story, the path that you went down that led you to this career is so very interesting. Can you give us a little bit of a personal background that led you into doing this type of work?
Absolutely. It was quite the epic drama, I will say that. But the condensed version of it is that I knew I would have trouble getting pregnant. So fertility treatment was kind of a no-brainer for us. We knew that would happen pretty early. And even though I was in my 20s, that was something that we had to really come to terms with very early in our relationship, my husband and I. And through fertility treatment, I lost our first due to a ruptured ectopic, got pregnant.
Sorry.
Thank you. Not expecting that at all. That was just a really hard journey to experience. And then the second round, I did get pregnant right away, and I had a very high-risk pregnancy. I ended up developing 8 complications in the course of 24 weeks.
Okay, so wait, what are 8 complications?
8 complicated. I mean, the easiest way to say it is other than preeclampsia and placenta previa, I had pretty much everything.
Gotcha.
You name it, I had it.
The worst thing that I had while pregnant, and it was pretty shitty, was hyperemesis, right?
Oh,
so I
didn't have that, yes.
And I was sick for 40 weeks, all 4 times.
Oh, that's awful.
Legit
That's awful.
But my babies weren't. That was the one thing. When you're sick like that, it means your babies are healthy. So I was like, all right, just suck this up. So the babies weren't at risk. I was just miserable. Sorry.
Yeah.
Derailed.
Well, no, and really sick. I mean, it's hard to go through, and a lot of people don't understand that. It's really challenging.
It is. All right. Sorry. Continue.
So, I mean, yeah, it was just one complication after another that started. Even the first one started before I even knew I was pregnant. It was one of a rare complication from IVF that started right even before I knew I was pregnant. And it just every few weeks, another one would pop up and another one would pop up. I went on bed rest at week 6 into my pregnancy and stayed there. Landed in the hospital at 22 weeks and 4 days, 3 centimeters dilated. And they thought it was over. Because of all the complications I'd had up until that point, I still needed to develop 3 more that I didn't know about that were coming. They thought it was over. And it was at that moment when I knew that I was not ready to give up. And I knew that there was no way that I was going to just be hands off and let things happen as they happen, which is what my medical team was was kind of telling me. They were saying, wait and see, there's nothing else we can do. There's nothing else we can do. We got to ride this out. And I thought, okay, I will do that. But I also know that
not just that.
Yeah. It's not going to be just that. Exactly. I knew that my stress levels impacted my pregnancy. Yeah. I could feel it in my body when I was anxious, when I was stressed, when I was worried. Things were happening in my body, especially preterm contractions, which we could see on the monitor by the time I was in the hospital. Mm-hmm. And when I was able to release them from my body, the stress, the anxiety, the worry, the contractions stopped.
So how do you release stress and anxiety from your body when you're bedridden your entire pregnancy and the doctors think it's unlikely your baby's going to make it? How do you just de-stress from that?
Right. Well, and this is in my book. This is what I preach everywhere. If you follow me on social, I mean, this is my thing, right? Stress is not a mindset issue. And I say this as somebody who is trained in clinical psychology. I used to work as a therapist. I used to do all this work cognitively for all my clients.
Okay.
And it wasn't until I went through this high-risk pregnancy that I realized there's a whole other aspect to this emotional experience that is extremely physical, that cognitive tools do not help with. They don't help. And I knew that because when I landed on bed rest, I was having a really hard time. I was so anxious. I was so worried. And I knew I needed support, but I also knew if I were to, somebody like me were to walk into a therapist's office, I knew as a therapist what I would do. And I knew as a patient, that's not what I needed. And so my focus really became about how is this translating to my body? Because I'm not able to turn off the what ifs and the hamster wheels and all these terrible things going on in my head. But I can do something for my body because there's very, very clear actionable steps you can take, right? If you're thirsty, you drink water. If you're tired, go to sleep. I mean, I'm saying this very simply. It's a little more complex than that, but it really focuses on get out of your head and into your body. What is your body telling you? And then give it what it needs.
So can you give us an example?
Yeah. So one example, I guess, that comes up a lot for my clients that came up for me when I was in the hospital was this idea of preterm contractions. Are the easiest ones to give an example with because you can tell when it's happening.
Right.
And you can, and especially if you're in the hospital or you're being monitored, you can really tell that it's happening because people can see it on the monitors, right? So one of the things that I teach my clients, one of the things that I had done is where in my body am I holding on to tension? Okay. Now this is on the backdrop of my head spinning in circles, worrying that I'm going to lose this baby, right? I'm not paying attention to my thoughts at all. I don't listen to my clients' thoughts at all. We don't even talk about what they're thinking about. Where in your body are you holding on to tension? And so for me, because of one of the medications I was on, I was having these horrible headaches, like these horrible, horrible headaches. It felt like a truck was just riding back and forth over my head.
That's awful.
Yeah. And so what I did was I asked the people around me, my family was around, my husband was around, my best friend would come by, said, please give me a head massage. Nice. And they'd sit there and they just rub my head. And the goal was not to turn off those thoughts. The goal was not anything else other than relieve my tension in my head.
Actual physical work.
Actual physical work. And what happened is as the pain decreased, so did my preterm contractions. Okay. Because when we have pain is a source of stress in our bodies. Inflammation is a source of stress in our bodies. So discomfort is a source of stress in our bodies. So when we focus on our bodies, there's an actual change that happens physiologically, physically, as well as emotionally. So the work that I do and the way I teach my clients is, yes, you've got these really big, intense emotions. We're going to manage them from the body to the brain, not the brain to the body.
And I assume that can apply to people outside of pregnancy, right?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
All right. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for sharing that. Okay. So you're in the hospital, you're figuring all of this out. Go ahead and continue.
Yeah. So 22 weeks and 4 days is when I landed in the hospital, 3 centimeters dilated. Doctors had given up hope. They were so sure it was over. They see this all the time. It's too early to save the baby. If a baby's born at that point, it's called the periviable stage. And they were just preparing me for the worst. We had some of the hardest conversations I've ever had in my life with my doctors about what happens if a baby's born, what happens if we want to resuscitate him, what is a long-term impact for him if he survives, which the chances were less than 5% at that point.
Wow.
Some really hard conversations. And over those next few days, my one and only goal was I wanted to keep my body tension-free. Completely tension-free. I delegated everything else out. Somebody else talked to the doctors. Somebody else talked to the nurses. I mean, of course, I had to have conversations with my medical team too, but if it wasn't about the baby, somebody else do it. We focused on just that. That was my one and only goal. I let other people decide about food. If I didn't care, I wasn't even hungry, so it didn't even matter.
Sure. Yeah.
Right? I let everybody else do all the rest of it. And I just focused on keeping my body tension free, listening to my body, speaking up when something was wrong. Otherwise, I'm just going to be like a jellyfish lying in bed.
All right.
Because we needed to make it past 25 weeks.
That was your job.
That was my goal. Yes.
Yeah.
And we did. We made it all the way to 24 weeks and 5 days.
Wow.
And that is when my son was born.
Which is still pretty early.
Which is still extremely early.
Like
extremely
scary.
Early.
Yeah.
It was very scary. I would never wish that on anybody.
Yeah.
But what it did do was it taught me that even in the most dire of situations, women who are pregnant have a say in how the rest of the story goes. Yeah. I got 15 days out of it. It's not a lot, but it meant life or death for my son. Yeah, it did. It gave him a chance at life. And we went from a survival rate of 5% to a survival rate of 11%, which is huge at that.
And he survived.
Stage. And then he survived.
Yeah. Which is amazing. How old is he now?
He's 5 now.
Oh, I love that. So, I mean, the takeaway there for me is, as far as, I mean, there are a lot of them actually, but no matter what is happening when you're interacting with medical professionals, don't just take it all at face value. Just because they're more educated than you in most cases about these things, you have to be responsible for your own care and listen to yourself and trust yourself, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I always say there are 2 experts in the room. The doctor is the medical expert, but you are the expert on your body. They will never know your body as well as you do. Ever. Never,
so
never,
trust
never.
It. Yeah.
Trust it. Absolutely.
That is amazing. And then do you just have the one child, or have you subsequently then had more children?
Well, after that experience, it was very clear
Would be
that
enough.
I can't carry. It's not safe for me to carry in the future, but we are expecting a second one thanks to a gestational carrier. So.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yes. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
That had to be quite a process as well. How did you go about making that decision and then taking that action?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that was a lot also. I feel like each of our children has such like this epic story that comes for sure before their arrival into this world and into our home. We knew that we wanted more. Our goal, our dream life was to have 3 children. That's not going to be possible, but we always wanted more. And because my son was an IVF baby, we had embryos in the freezer. And so it was just a really simple decision to say, well, we want more. I can't carry them. So let's look and see what our options are since we have the embryos. I got to be honest, if we didn't have the embryos, I don't think we would have done this. I think we would have just been one and done.
Sure. I get
But we had the options. So we pursued we found our agency that we're working with, and we were matched with one gestational carrier, and it didn't work out with her. And so we were matched with our current one, who I am saying is our guardian angel. She is this angel on earth, this like the most amazing person I've ever met in my entire life. She's so incredible. And so again, long story short, I guess, we ended up, she miscarried 4 of our babies through the process. Mm-hmm. And we don't know why. Everything tested completely normally. There was no answers.
Of miscarriages. Were they single embryo implants or?
Yes, they were. They were all single embryo transfers. Mm-hmm.
Holy cow.
And so this little baby, our little baby girl that's coming, she was our very last embryo, and we had no hope left. We just said, well, we don't want to keep one in the freezer, so let's just transfer it. And we had started making plans for being a family of 3. We'd started moving money around. We started looking for a home for the 3 of us, and all of that, we were so sure it wasn't going to work. And then I got the call and she said, guess what? She's pregnant. And I was like, wait, what? Are you sure you're looking at the right chart? Do you know who you're talking to?
Wow. So how far along was she when you got that news?
She had just done her first blood test. So it was about 9 days after our embryo transfer. Mm-hmm.
That is so exciting. I literally have chills. So we did an interview early on in the show entitled There Buns My Oven with a woman who was a gestational carrier.
Oh my goodness. Yes.
Yeah. And it's a lovely, lovely story. And so I love that we've sort of brought this full circle from both perspectives now, not the same family, obviously.
Yeah.
But it's such a wonderful, wonderful story. How exciting for you. When is your baby girl due?
She's due at the end of October.
Okay, so I think I have to look by the time this airs, she may be here. So you might have to send us some pictures for the show notes. That's so awesome. All right, so you go through this really very traumatic experience to bring your son into the world, which is, I'm so grateful that he's here and that you're well. Is that when you decided to go into this particular type of work, or had you already been doing that kind of work?
No, I hadn't been doing it at all. So actually that's an interesting story too. So when I was little, I'd always wanted to be an OBGYN, like not any other specific, no, not doctor in general, but specifically OBGYN. So every career report, I'd go to my best friend's dad, go, hi, I want to interview you. He's an OBGYN nearby. I've got another question. I've got another report to do. And he was so sweet, so patient with me. Every time I was so fascinated with it. And then I went to college and I took Chem 1A and I realized I don't think that way. Don't have that part of my brain that helps me understand chemistry very well.
And yet still, this is sort of what you're focusing on.
Exactly. Yeah. So my life kind of journey took me through clinical psychology from that angle and came back around because of this personal experience to apply my education and training in psychology and health to this particular population that I've always wanted to work with, just in a way that I think I'd do a much better job at than had I tried to actually become a doctor.
That's cool.
So yeah, the inspiration really came during my pregnancy. There was actually a couple days before he was born where it was a really rare moment where it was just me in the room. Usually I was surrounded by people. And there was this moment where I kind of snuck my hand between the two monitors that were on my tiny little belly. And I put my hand there just to feel him. And I said, look, if we survive this and we get to go home together, I have to come back and help women who are going through this, because I hate how alone I feel. And I can't believe nobody's teaching women how much power they have in their bodies. We're going to do this.
I love that.
And so that's kind of when that was the day that I committed to that. And when he came home, he was in the NICU for 109 days.
Wow.
And then we were on lockdown together for 2.5 years because of his health. We had to keep him very sheltered and protected.
2.5 years.
2.5 years. He and I were just, our social interaction was going to see doctors. So they became my best friends.
I'll bet.
That was my social outing of the week.
That's got its own level of, you have to work your way through that sort of stress and anxiety.
Yes, absolutely.
And so you were running your business while homebound with your little guy.
No, so I actually didn't start it. So I had to stop working when I went on bed rest, and then my entire career stopped. And then once he came home, there was no time because there was like 3 to 4 specialist appointments a week, plus the standard newborn stuff and the whole not sleeping and the whole everything that I couldn't do it. But the thought never left my mind. It was around the time that he turned 3 and he started getting healthier and stronger. We were off of lockdown. We were starting to explore the world again. And I was able to just kind of breathe and think again, that I went back to that thought and went, I really still want to do this. Yeah. This really still feels right. This feels like what I'm put on this earth to do. And so that's when the business really started forming and it became a thing.
That is so interesting to me that it stayed with you that long. Is your little guy like top notch, really feeling good?
He's amazing. You would never know. If you saw him, you would never know what he went through to get to be where he is today.
Wow. I love that. I know I have some friends with children who were born early, and once they catch up, it is kind of magic. So excellent.
It is.
When did you write your book?
I just wrote it. Actually, it came out in June, end of June, 2018. So just about a month.
That's exciting. We'll have it up on the show notes with a link to it if anyone's interested. Are you thinking at all about writing a book about this practice for just anybody, not just pregnancy? I feel like there's so much, that concept of managing stress is not mindset work, because I think so much of it we think is mindset. And I want to say, look, I do actually think if you sit there and think my baby's going to die or I'm going to die, there's something in that, but
right. Of course.
But the idea that there are other ways, not just
Yes.
mindset, that there are physical ways, that seems like something that everybody could use. So I hope you write another book. That's what I'm trying to say. So I can read it. So as you're going through this, I can only imagine, I often ask people what the biggest struggle was. Well, I don't want to assume, it sounds like it was all a pretty big struggle. What was the most difficult thing through all of this?
Well, there were a couple of days that were the hardest. I think the day that my water broke at 23 plus 2. I thought that was it. It was over.
Okay. Yeah.
The day he was born, that was something that's, I think a lot of people had a hard time understanding, is I don't have happy memories of the day that he was born, because he was not supposed to be born that day. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And then there was another day when he was in the NICU, when he was basically at the edge of life. And I was holding him and I could see just life slipping away. I think those were like those days were awfully hard. But I think if I turn it inwards to the biggest struggle for myself, I think it was after it was all over and he was home and we just had time to be as a family in the same house together under the same roof and live this life that we had fought every single day for.
Yeah. And
the tremendous guilt that sat on my shoulders, feeling like I had failed him.
Oh, wow.
That my body could not protect him any longer than 24 weeks and 5 days. I think that has been the biggest struggle.
Friend, that hurt. Like, that hurts me, because of course you didn't fail him.
Right.
You saved him, and you saved him.
Right.
But yes, as parents, when my third daughter was born, and my pregnancies, other than hyperemesis, were pretty easy. I didn't gain any weight because I was sick all the time. So there was that. Right. This little one was born. She was evicted, I joke. And this is my interest, as interesting as it gets as a birth story. I had the same doctor for all of my babies. And the last month of my pregnancy, I don't know what it was, but I was absolutely terrified that my own doctor wouldn't be the one delivering this child.
Sure.
And of course, there are 3 other doctors in the practice, and it's not a big deal. And I would walk in at this point, with a healthy pregnancy, you go in every week, and I would sit there and I would cry and I would say, Dr. Hidalgo, it has to be you. It has to be you. You have to deliver the baby. You have to. And I was due Thanksgiving weekend. And she said, well, I have the weekend off. No, she didn't have the weekend off. I'm on call for the weekend. So let's schedule induction for Monday. If you go into labor over the weekend, I will be there. I have Monday off. You can be induced Monday. I will come in when it's time for you to have the baby. And I didn't want to be induced. I didn't want to play with any of that. But this cutie pie did not come out over the weekend. She was not making it easy on me. It was swollen to the size of the ham we had for dinner, which was insane. And so we went in at, 6 a.m. on Monday morning, and everything progressed fairly quickly. We get ready to push. They call her. She lives down the street. She said, I'll be right over. And this kid came out. She was my third baby. She came out in one push. And my doctor audibly gasped. She went, oh my God, this is a lucky baby. And I said, wait, what are you talking about? She had 2 true knots in her cord.
Oh my goodness.
And she said to me, I don't think she would have made it another day.
Wow.
And they put her, I'm going to cry. They put her on my chest, and she stayed there, and we just held each other for a little while. And then, you go into new parent mode. But the next day she came back in and I said, did you just tell me that if I had waited another day, my baby would be dead? And she said, I think that's true. And I thought, so that's why my instincts for the last month were like this, you have to deliver this baby, right? So that I would agree to have the induction, which I never wanted. So the intuition was there. I think that's why I let this kid run ramshot over me, because I'm just so damn glad she's alive.
Yeah.
Like, I carry that with me, that connection with her, with me. So
you don't forget that.
No. So I get that. It's crazy. Did you feel brave? Like, as you were fighting for his life and you were practicing all of these things, did you feel brave at that time?
No, not during it. It felt like just something I had to do. And I didn't have, I don't think I had the resources to step back and think about what I was doing.
Yeah, I get
At
that.
the time, it just felt like breathing, like, okay, this is what I have to do.
Yeah.
There's just no option. This is what it is.
Do you feel brave now that you're in this work, brave to make the decision to keep pushing through, to have your little girl who's on the way? Do you honor that now and know, like, fuck yeah, I'm brave?
Yeah. And that's not a word that I've thought of, but yeah, that is actually it really resonates. Like, good. Yeah, look at us go.
I'm glad to hear that. So how then have you taken the time to stop and honor and celebrate successes, whether it was all the little giant things that kept your son alive, being in the house, and then maybe the first time you got to take him to the park, or, each of these wonderful things? How do you honor and celebrate success?
I've learned through all of this, this is on the backdrop of I'll say that I'm terrible at celebrating success. I always have been. But after this experience, what really clicked for me was celebrating success was all about letting people in and celebrating with them.
Yes, for sure. Yeah.
And so anytime something like this happens, and it's like you said, it was one of the biggest moments of success. I'll remember when we got off of lockdown for the first time, was the first time that I got to take him to the grocery store. And I sat there, he was in the cart in the parking lot, and I was just crying because I was so excited that he got to see the world. And the grocery store was such a huge world for him.
I'll bet he was excited. Was he like freaking out?
My God, he was like, he talked very early. So he was sitting there in the car seat or the cart, and he's going, there are so many apples.
Oh.
Why are there so many apples?
I love that.
It was
what a joyous moment to recall.
It was so incredible. I'll never forget it. And I remember also it through the tears, I'm texting my friends and I'm texting my parents and going, we're at the grocery store. And that really, it started even in the NICU, right? We would celebrate every 10 grams he grew. When he crossed 1,000 grams, it was like party central.
Absolutely. Those things should be honored. I hope that you'll continue to get better at celebrating success, because it's a game changer.
It is. And this whole experience has been such a great reminder and a life lesson for that now I know who my people are, and I just text them or I call them and I say, guess what happened today? And
so great.
It's just been a really nice change and nice shift for myself just individually.
I call those people my personal board of directors.
Yeah.
We have a group chat and I'm like, okay, BOD, let's do this.
Right.
Let's celebrate, or let's problem solve or troubleshoot or whatever it is. I think that's awesome. That. Yeah. Excellent. So what is your favorite charitable organization to support?
Well, if you don't mind me sharing, I actually started one 8 years ago.
I actually didn't know that. I can't believe I didn't know that.
Yeah, 8 years ago. This was actually a project out of grad school that I created. It's called My Sahana. And the mission is to end stigma around mental health in the South Asian community.
Oh, wow. That's beautiful.
Yeah. So it's been around for 8 years. Okay. And that's my organization that I support.
So how do you do that work?
That works. So the organization's purely online and it's completely anonymous. The stigma in the South Asian community is actually much, much higher than it is in most communities. In fact, South Asians are, out of all ethnic minorities, the least likely to access mental health services and the most likely to drop out of services soon after starting.
I had no idea.
So yeah, the stigma is really, really bad. It's so bad that we don't actually, in all the 16 South Asian languages that exist, actually it's more than that, it's more like 20, a little more than 20 South Asian languages that exist, there's not one word that means mental health. The closest word that comes to that is crazy. It translates as crazy. So we don't even have a language for this experience. So My Sahana does a lot of work on educating and providing information about mental health in a culturally sensitive manner online, so that when people resonate with that language, they can reach out and be connected to culturally competent providers who we actually train to be able to serve the South Asian community in a way that resonates with the culture.
That's wonderful, wonderful work. So you guys, listeners, as I ask you every week, get to know them. Do you know anybody that could benefit from the organization? If you have any resources to give, time, money, connections, Even if it's just sharing their Facebook page, please go out and do so. We're trying to build a community and make a better world here, and we need your help to do that. So congratulations on starting an organization, and we'll have links to that. You'll get to be the charity of the week when this episode airs. So
thank you.
Give you lots of love for that.
Awesome.
Parijat, will you share your 3 words with us one more time?
Absolutely. Hope, strength, and inspiration.
Fantastic words. I often dig in with them, but I think those are all pretty darn clear. And you are such a beautiful beacon of hope. You have a wonderful way of speaking, like a very calming energy. I can feel it, and strength. It's such a gift. I love the work that you're doing. One day you're going to write that book, and you can thank me in the foreword.
You got it.
It's been such a joy having you on. I appreciate the reminder to self-advocate and to listen to my inner voice. There won't be any more babies for me, but the concept that I can control my stress level physically is really a gift. And I love that we can remind everybody out there that they have a lot more power than they think they do.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Everybody, that's it for today. This is Heather Vickery. I hope you're enjoying the show. Please remember to go rate, subscribe, review, share it with a friend. I would consider it a personal favor. Glad to have you on this journey with me. And as always, I'm reminding you to choose bravely. The Brave Files is proudly supported by Audible. If you enjoy listening to podcasts, you're sure to love listening to your favorite books on Audible. Get your free 30-day trial, complete with a credit for a free audiobook download today, simply by visiting audibletrial.com/thebravefiles. Again, that's visiting audibletrial.com/thebravefiles.
Hi, I'm Mike from the Genuine Chit Chat podcast, where we have honest conversations with interesting people. I speak to a wide variety of guests, from travellers to musicians to those afflicted with mental or physical illnesses. There's really no subject that's off limits, from movies to politics and even controversial topics ranging from sex to drug reform and political correctness. So if you still believe in the art of conversation, are intrigued by healthy debates with different ideas and perspectives you may not have thought of, and want a podcast where every episode is about something different with a variety of guests, then this may be the podcast for you. You can hear us on YouTube and all your favourite podcast apps, and follow us on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook. So if you want to hang out and listen to honest conversations with interesting people, then come to Genuine Chit Chat, where I'm your host, Mike Burton.
Thank you for listening to The Brave Files. Be sure to visit thebravefilespodcast.com to access the show notes and discover fantastic bonus content. Music composed and produced by Matt Lewis of Union Music, LLC.